In the heart of a secluded African village, nestled between rolling hills and dense forest, football wasn't merely a game, it was a way of life. Every young boy dreamed of playing on the village's dusty field, yearning for respect and recognition. Among them were three brothers, Saka, Baima, and Bambi. To most, they were united in brotherhood, but beneath the surface, a quiet tension simmered. Saka, the youngest, was a marvel on the field. Tall and broad-shouldered, with striking blue eyes that were rare in these parts, he moved with an elegance that captivated the village. People would often say it was like watching a spirit dance with the ball. His movements were so fluid, so instinctive, it seemed as though he commanded the very earth beneath him. In his bright orange jersey, Saka was impossible to miss, and whenever he stepped onto the field, the entire village would gather to watch him in awe. However, this admiration came at a cost. At home, Saka's talent cast a shadow. His older brothers, Baima and Bambi, were both skilled players, yet they struggled to match Saka's brilliance. Baima was solid and tactical, a player who relied on strength and strategy, but he lacked Saka's graceful ease. Bambi was fast and agile, weaving through defenders with finesse, but he couldn't replicate the magic touch that seemed innate to Saka. Though they never spoke of it, resentment began to grow within Baima and Bambi, who watched as Saka bathed in the admiration they had once sought for themselves. The seeming jealousy reached a breaking point when news spread that Saka had been chosen to represent their community in a prestigious regional football event. For weeks, it was all anyone in the village could talk about. This wasn't just a game, it was a gathering of villages from across the region, a rare chance for Saka to showcase his talent beyond the confines of his home and perhaps even attract the attention of scouts who could change his life forever. For Baima and Bambi, this news felt like a bitter defeat. In their eyes, Saka's success diminished their own efforts. They had been striving for years, owning their skills, and now it was their younger brother who was stepping into the spotlight. The envy that had quietly festered finally began to boil over, transforming into something darker and more intense. One evening, as the brothers trained together on the field, the air between them grew thick with tension. Saka practiced alone, effortlessly maneuvering the ball as the sun dipped low on the horizon. His orange jersey flashed in the fading light, a reminder of the recognition he was about to receive. Baima and Bambi stood nearby, whispering to each other, their eyes fixed on Saka with expressions that betrayed a complex blend of frustration, jealousy, and hurt. As they watched him play, their anger grew. Saka, who had always looked up to his older brothers, didn't realize how deeply this resentment had taken root. But for Baima and Bambi, it wasn't about anything Saka had said or done, it was about what he represented. Saka was everything they had wanted to be but couldn't quite achieve. The idea that he might surpass them, outshine them, was more than they could bear. In a sudden surge of emotion, Baima's frustration turned physical, and he shoved Saka, who stumbled back, momentarily caught off guard. That single push ignited a storm. Bambi joined in, his movements fierce, circling Saka with a predatory intensity. Dust rose around them as they struggled, Saka trying to fend off their attacks without harming his brothers. He fought back not with anger, but with a desperate urge to protect himself, unwilling to escalate the violence yet left with little choice. In the midst of the struggle, there was a pause. The brothers stood, panting, their chests heaving as they looked at one another. Baima's frustration and Bambi's resentment were etched into their faces, their eyes reflecting the painful reality of a brotherhood now strained to its limits. Saka, though bruised and shaken, met their gaze steadily. It was not the physical blows that hurt him most, but the betrayal. These were the brothers he had admired, the ones he had always looked up to, and now they were trying to strip away everything he had worked for. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the soft rustling of the wind through the trees. Something seemed to break within Baima and Bambi. Perhaps it was the realization that they couldn't truly defeat him, or maybe they finally glimpsed the madness of what they were doing. Whatever it was, they backed down, retreating a few steps as the weight of their actions settled in. Without a word, Saka turned and walked away from the field. His orange jersey gleamed in the fading light, a symbol of the spirit that remained unbroken despite everything. Baima and Bambi stood watching him go, their expressions clouded with the guilt and frustration that came with realizing the depth of their jealousy. Yet, deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. The bitterness, the envy, it hadn't disappeared, only been pushed aside. As long as Saka was around, the tension between the brothers would continue to grow, festering in the shadows. And so, I waited, sensing that something darker still lay on the horizon.